John Clark here, doing number 2. And this one was put in September's, but I feel like it deserves a separate answer. And that's, what suggestions do you have for making my time in school/residency more valuable? Now, I am the oddball outlier here because I would love to have my resident set up a year in advance of their graduation. And this question is exactly why I would love that. School is its own environment. And having someone that you're going to wind up working for completely engaged in what you're learning at the time and giving you insights from the years in their profession on the questions to ask, the things to practice, the things to maybe do a little deeper dive on, what do you feel your holes are and how can we fill them in now? The things to commit to muscle memory right now while you're in school. I'd love to have that relationship where, we're regularly touching on things so I know what you're learning and I can give you insights that will let you leverage the fantastic teachers that you have and be asking those right questions and be getting the right skills and be building the right competency while you're going through it. Because all too often, it's a little too tough to connect the dots on your own. A simple example for me. In school, you go learn how to cast AFOs. Great. Just handholds. Just tips and tricks for getting someone in the best possible position and how to hold that foot and control that foot. And your instructors have all this stuff down. They got it in their muscle memory. You don't yet. Just drawing attention to, hey, take 3 different ways of approaching the foot, practice all of them, and practice them enough that you set it in your muscle memory now, not later. Now, when you got these resources that are there to give you insight into what you're doing and how you might do it differently and how to change those fingers, and someone that's pushing back on you hard, okay, it's going to require a little different. How do you use your shoulders, your upper body for these techniques? So finding those, connect the dots between, hey, this is the real world that you're going to be working in, here's the academic world. They have all the resources. You might not yet have the engagement to understand how important it is. And the little tweaks that can make a difference on the far side for you. Reverse timelines. So in our residency program, from actually before you show up local, we have you look at a reverse timeline. Our reverse timeline is based from what you have to know when you take your CPM, rolling it all the way back to day 1 on the job. And we do that so that you don't reach the end of your residency and like, oh crap, what do I have to know and how am I going to prepare and I got to memorize all this stuff and cram. And we do that so that you thoughtfully, intentionally, habitually are just preparing all the way. And there's things that you check in on along the way. And certainly being thoughtful in the same way as you go through your period of instruction. it's easy because of the demands of the reading and the challenges of the studying and being prepared for the tests to like, oh yeah, I've got upper orthotics down because my exam's tomorrow. And forget it by the time you hit your residency. So what are the ways that you can thoughtfully, continuously, habitually be preparing to be in a good position with your overall learning? Guess what? Once you're out of your academic program, nobody's going to care about your grades. But they are going to care deeply about what you've learned and how you can treat people and how you can manage patients and how you can integrate with a team. So you're not getting graded most likely on those things, and yet that's going to have a much larger impact to your career. So being intentional and thinking about those things helps. And maybe a reverse timeline is the way that you think about that. So let me give you a little slice. So congratulations if when you went into your academic program you knew who you were going to be working for as a resident. It's not the experience of most people. So why are you waiting until 3 or 4 months before you're out of school to figure out where you're going to do your residency? Why don't you early on, as you're visiting facilities, start putting a list together of, wow, I like what they do there. I like the culture there. I like the style of work there. I like these people. Go to the national meetings and the state meetings. Find our field. Make yourself known. Figure out, that was a nice, generous guy. You might want to talk to him some more. Build this is what I believe is my ideal residency. This is what I'd like it to look like. This is the kind of organization, the kind of people that I want to work with, the kind of culture I want to experience. You can be doing this throughout your academic experience. And then when it comes time where you do actually need to find that job, well, chances are you know what you want. You'll have some connections and contacts. You'll be able to ask them questions that might put you in touch with, that right organization for you. And look, the perfect one might not be out there for you yet. But if you have an understanding of what's important to you, then you can thoughtfully evaluate very different programs based on what's important to you. If it's all about reps, getting lots of experience, there's places you can go and get that. They might be soul crushing to other people, but wow, that by itself, getting reps after rep after rep with a lot of pressure and a lot of work, if you come in with the right mindset and you're ready to do that, that can be fantastic experience. But man, I've seen that just kill people. You need to know that. If you'd love to work side by side with one person and do the deep dive and learn from them and their experience, that's good to know. If you're like, no man, I'm much better off if there's a team of 10. Well, crap, if that's what you love, don't be talking to mom and pops. Go find those places that have large teams so that those folks are there. But yeah, okay, so I know the academic institutions and Shriners, and Yeah, there's places that have the large teams, but maybe they don't have enough residencies to take everybody that thinks they want to do that. So look at that list that you've been making and evaluate, hey, doesn't look like I'm going to get that. So how do I replace that? How do I intentionally build my extended team? You know, John said I could call him if I had a challenging patient. And Karen in my class, we want to stay in touch. So look for, if you're not getting the full cultural experience that you want in the context of your residency, build your own teams. Go through some continuing ed that gives you that experience that you might not be getting in your residency. And it's so much easier if right from the start you've had an intentional plan where you're working on it all along, and it'll serve you well. Let's see. Other things percolating on, like how can you make your academic experience better? Work your human connections. We live in a day and time when, chances are, if you're going through school now, you had less face-to-face personal interaction than when I was a kid. You got more text, you got more email, even video conference. And yet, because we are working with people to care for people, your human skills are so essential. So be intentional about it. You are in a cohort of students. You may want to learn DISC personality types and think about how your professors and your fellow students might fall into that. You should be paying attention to learning styles and how that has an impact on communication. You will want to practice stepping out of your personal comfort zone and using the language of somebody else's learning style. So, quick example in this regard. Think of the last trip to the beach that you had. Now, there's 3 primary learning styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Describe your trip to the beach. First, with your personal style. But start to understand, oh, my primary learning style is visual. So I am seeing the scene and describing the scene and painting the picture for someone. So that should be the easy one. But it might not be easy for you to actually hear those words in the language that you use. But then make the shift. Talk about what it was like listening to the waves roll in, and just love the sound of joyful laughter as we're playing out in the water, and the rush when the wave rolls over your head and the noise that makes. Auditory. Kinesthetic. The sensation of the sun while I'm laying on the warm sand. And oh man, it was so cold. Walking out into it was painful, but once I got out in the waves, what fun to be body surfing and getting crashed onto the beach. So, how might you take your cohort in school and be intentional about developing your communication skills? Chances are there might be someone you don't get along with. Guess what? There's going to be patients you don't really get along with. It's your job to understand them in a way that you can positively treat them. And hey, who better to practice on than a classmate that's a pain? So I hope this gives you some ideas of how you might leverage your time in school to increase your learning in ways that are going to make a bigger difference than the letter you get next to your class over the course of your career.